You are listening to the Barely Audible Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Barely Audible Podcast. I am your host, Justin Romine, alongside my co-host, Bearz. Bearz, welcome.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here alongside my co-host, Justin. Good to see you again, brother. Hope you're feeling well.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I'm getting better. It's been quite a
What kind of
rough
virus
couple
do you
weeks.
have?
It's just a flu virus on top of a cold that I had, but I'm getting better.
Are you burning the candle at both ends these days?
Trying my best to keep my head above water.
And who's today's
Today we have Rahim AlHaj. He's joining us from Albuquerque, where I am currently at as well. Rahim is a musician, plays the ancient instrument, the oud. Is that how it's pronounced, Rahim? The oud?
Absolutely. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So welcome for joining us. We're going to get into your story. You have quite an interesting story. Rahim is originally from Iraq. And
Iraq.
Yeah.
I would love if you can say it Iraq instead
Iraq.
of Iraq. Exactly. Because, usually I was always correct. You like, do you say Italy or Italy?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And because when they took it, unfortunately, this Iraq from W. Bush, because he did not know how to pronounce Iraq. So he said Iraq. He did not know. So anyway, but that's for
I think that's very important. That's very important that what Rahim said, because Bush, let's face it, was only interested in disemboweling and plundering the country.
Yeah.
No, I mean, because that's the problem with as we know, American people as sweet and wonderful people, but they are uninformed, and that's what they get their information from the screen TV, and they heard W. Bush, Iraq, and then kept in their mind, it's like Iraq, what? It's like, no, it's not Iraq, it's Iraq, it's Iran, it's Italy, and so forth.
Yes.
So with I'm not to need to defend you, Justin, but just,
that's okay.
Just because you are in my home, right? So just because it's podcast, so there's gonna people they understand the difference between Iraq and Iraq.
Well, this is one of the reasons we started this podcast, Rahim, is just to open up a larger discussion with the family of humankind, really, to have a mutual learning experience, hopefully. And by the time the show's over with, we hope someone in the viewing audience, the three of us, that there's an exchange and we've learned something new and made the world just that bit smaller for everyone.
Absolutely.
It's all about learning. Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, let's talk about your story a little bit. You started playing the oud at a fairly young age. How did you find the instrument, and how did you get interested in it?
Well, I think it's a faith. I believe in faith. Actually, that means you have a choice. But anyway, my story was like when I was in elementary school. There's an Arabic teacher. He's a wonderful human being, and he used to bring his instrument to our class and playing, And as you know, in the Middle East and Arab world, teacher is like a god, like he's not a human being, We don't see him as a human being. We don't see him as somebody who can eat or go to bathroom or whatever or get sick. No, he's like a god. So at any rate, one day I remember I saw this beautiful instrument and I asked him, really, I was courageous enough to ask him if I can just put my hand on top of it. And he looked at me, he said, yeah, sure. So I reached my hand to the oud and it was like, oh my God, it's like so soft, wood soft. It's like, so I felt, and in fact, whatever I talk about this story, I mean, I can remember it vividly in my mind, and electricity came to all my body about it, and the feeling of ecstasy, literally ecstasy, I had at that time. So I went back home. I remember I didn't sleep because I was I was just so happy. Like I touched something gorgeous and beautiful. But anyway, so 2 days, 3 days, whatever later, whatever, I don't remember. He brought his instrument again, and I just wanted to have the same feeling, right? So I asked him again if I could do it, and he looked at me. He said, "Would you like to play it?" I said, "Oh yeah." So he said, "Okay, but be careful." And so I imitate him. I put my left hand on the fingerboard, and this is like Iraqi oud. It's like bigger than me, literally, almost. So I reached down, and I don't know what I did really, to be honest, but I freaked him out, and he said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! What, what's going? Are you a musician?" I said, "I don't know what to say." And he said, "Guess what? This is yours." And
Whoa.
and he said,
Wow.
"But wait, it's not yours until you know how to play it."
Oh,
Hmm.
wow.
And he started teaching me like so because he's not a musician really. So he was giving me a lesson, and the problem is, how can I get it to my home? This is
Mhm.
the oud. And that's the significant story about it. So he walked me from the school to my home and knock on the door and tell my parents that, look, this guy, he didn't steal this instrument. No, this is his, and he will start it. And he was so big things, because when your teacher show up in your door at your home, that's a big honor. It's like really a big honor to our home. So my father, he accepted in the beginning. So he was giving me lessons, like major, minor, and I was just like bum, 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 like I can freak him out. And he said, "Hey, wait a minute. I am not music teacher, and you are way behind me. You need a real teacher." So he sent me to another one, the Adin, and he's wonderful. A guy, he was teaching me how to read and music and stuff for them. By the 13, I did my first show actually in elementary school, was solo concert. I think I was 11 or something. By 13, I went the youth a composer in Iraq, which is like big deal. Where Munir Bashir, he saw me and he said, "Whoa, this guy." So I went to the conservatory and I studied with Munir Bashir for 6 years, and that's it. That's how I. And since then, I never really be away more than 5 minutes from my instrument. And in fact, I remember so vividly. I developed an habit. I have to sleep with my instrument, like in the room. And one day I remember I was talking to my instruments, like, "Oh, Habibi, I'm tired, I'm exhausted. We will practice tomorrow." So I put it in the blanket, and he said, and my father was walking by, and he heard me talking to my instrument, and he went to my mom, and he said, "Our son is insane. We need to do something about it." So at any rate, and that's it. I toured since I was 13 years old, and till now I'm a musician.
Did you pick it up pretty easily at a young age and learn it fairly
Oh God,
easily?
it was like it was. I would say that it's become not just easy. Actually, it's effortless to
Hmm.
some degree. It's really effortless, and I believe in that. I believe that if you need to be an artist, it has to be effortless. Otherwise, do something else, really, because it's gonna take you a long time to be who you are as a musician or as an artist specifically. Because learning an instrument, actually, as you know, Justin, it has nothing to do with being an artist. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So you can play guitar very well, but that doesn't make you a guitarist, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
So you can learn the instrument, and that's anybody can learn an instrument. It's not a really big deal. But what you gonna do with this instrument? And that's the most important thing, that people, they misunderstand that in back home, for example, which is very unique. Back home in the conservatory, we don't make a musician who play an instrument. No, the conservatory make an artist. They have five, and that's it, done. for 6 years, and to make him an artist, not to make him he's good on an instrument. He has to be good on his instrument to be able to enter the conservatory anyway. But to make him an artist, that's a different story.
And how did your surroundings and growing up in the Middle East influence how you were going to be playing, and maybe your dreams of becoming a musician? How did your background kind of play in that?
It really was hard and difficult for a lot of reasons, because my family is very conservative family. Even though my mom really supported me a lot, my father, although he never proved it, never ever. And in fact, he's never ever been in single concert in my entire life, never. And in fact, he said, if you just study music, I'm going to dishonor you. So I studied actually Arabic literature at the same time I was going to school so it wasn't easy. But I believe so profoundly that to be an artist, you have to have no choice except doing your art. This is it. Because if you giving you a choice, you will lose it. You will give it up. And I see it over and over and over and over again for around the world. To kill your talent is two. To get married, you have kids, or you go with higher education, and that's it.
Yeah.
So you will give it up, because especially in our home here in the United States, it's really rough and difficult to survive as an artist. And you need to be on top of the top to make living. Back home, you graduated from the Fine Art Institute and you have a salary every month, enough to survive, and you concentrate on your work. Here, no, you have your own. That's why they go there and they have kids. They need to feed them, and they go and they get their PhDs and to be a professor here and there, and that's it, done.
I remember being on a beach in the French West Indies, and the locals were curious about me, and they came up and they said, "What do you do?" And I thought that was an odd question, because at the time I'm just like, well, I'm a human breathing on this planet. But when they found out I was a poet, their eyes got really big and lit up. You didn't get that reception here in America. If you said you were a poet, people would almost take pity on you because you didn't have a real career, or you certainly weren't pursuing what they
right.
found worthwhile in this society. You weren't interested in working for the military industrial complex and disemboweling people that you had no beef with. No, you wanted to pursue a much more inward sort of exploration and pathway, sort of like Rumi, So it was amazing, the reception I got, and it was on the island of Guadeloupe in the French West Indies in the Caribbean. And no matter what people say about,
of course.
Yes,
Of course, when you are a poet back home, it's so big honor, and that means it's a big thing to be a poet. It's not like, oh yeah, I read a poet or have a, and again, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is very important to touch it at least. Back home in Iraq specifically, when you are 21 and you are a poet and you have a 3 to 4 collection, what are you doing? It's like by 21 you already established, and your collection 2 3 already established. So you cannot be a poet after you are 40 or whatever. They don't take you seriously. You can write, of course, nobody will tell you no, but does that make sense? So they took an art as very serious, whatever it is. My brother, for example, he's a very well-known, really great. Oh, I can see one of his painting, and behind me. I mean, he's a professional artist, and that's how we do it. We deal with it. I mean, we don't like, I'm gonna write my book after I retired. What the hell does that mean, really? What do you mean you write your book after you retired? what you've been doing. So, like, so this
Exactly.
concept, when I arrived to the United States, it's really, it shocked me. I really, it made me, it said, wait a minute. I mean, the postmodernism started here, for God's sake. Huh? What do you mean? Poetry and art and music and jazz and all that started from this country, and they have no idea about how to survive an artist. That doesn't make sense. In fact, I go back to my story, and when I came here in 2000 in the United States, in Albuquerque, I, excuse me, I didn't speak English that time, even though I was speaking French, but nobody speaking French in New Mexico anyway. In fact, just probably two people, which is I found later, professor at UNM. But anyway, that's the story. So I didn't speak English, and when you came here as a political asylum or even refugee, they call you. So they give you 1 month free, right? Rent, and then next month you have to be in your own. So I remember it's this really incredible story. I called it McDonald's story, which is it's been like in New York Times, Guardians, Washington Post, CNN. I mean, name it. Anyway, so the story is like this. After 1 month, my caseworker came to me in my home, in my studio, in fact, on Yale, near Outpost, performance space. Anyway, and he said, well, hey, Rahim, there's a good news. We find you a job. I said, yeah, sure. So which kind of job? And he said, in McDonald's. And I said, so which kind of conservatory is that? Do they teach Western classical music or Eastern classical music? And he smiled. He said, no, it's McDonald's. I said, oh, yeah, I know McDonald's. It's just because I am a violinist. They teach just Western classical music. So I'm a violinist, I'm classically trained as a violinist. And he smiled and he said, no, it's not a conservatory. It's a restaurant. And I said, but I don't play in restaurant. And he said, well, actually, you're not going to play in McDonald's. I mean, you work there as a dishwasher. And I lost it, really. Whatever bad word I ever had it and throw it there and there. And I said, do you know who I am, really? He said, yeah, we know you are one of the best audible in the world, blah, blah, blah. But here we go. You need to survive and you need to make a living. And I said, would you please send me back to Syria? That time I was living in Syria. Because this is insane. I mean, like, what do you mean? I mean, like an artist, you just musician, you will play music. That's right. I mean, I always say that over and over and over again. When you have profession, what does that mean, a profession? I mean, you go to school, whatever it is, to get your profession. If you go to the med school, you will become a doctor, right? They are not going to expect to be engineering or working in something else, right? You will be a doctor, right? You graduated to be an engineer from engineering school, you'll be an engineer. You graduated as a lawyer, you'll be a lawyer. So you graduated from art, whatever it is, music or visual art. You will be an artist. That's it. I mean, like, there's not really rocket science about it. Otherwise, why I need to spend? Yes.
Rahim, do you think that job at McDonald's, however, gave you any sort of profound insight either into your own sort of beliefs and opinions? Did it help you find a greater strength or a greater impetus to become a full-time professional musician here in the United States?
Yeah, correct. In fact, I remember she's still my best friend, Kelly Guy Beckenoff, actually from Pennsylvania. And I was begging her, can I do a concert and collect my ticket and go back? Because they said, yes, you can go back to Syria, but you have to pay the ticket. They coming in and ticket going back. So, and she said, hey, Rahim, it's really difficult. And first of all, you playing an oud, right? Or like it's an unfamiliar instrument in Albuquerque in the middle of the desert, right? um, Nobody knows who Rahim. Anyway, I was crying. I said, just let me do it. But anyway, so the long story short, we rented Color Hall at the UNM, and I rented a sound guy, and we started to promote it, whatever it was, and I remember when I finished the concert, there was like a beautiful guy with his son came to the green room, and he had my uh, not brochure, the program, and my picture in it.
Yeah.
And the little boy was crying, and I said in bad English, I said, "You don't like my music, don't you?" And he said, "No, I loved your music, but I need your autograph."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." If this little boy understood what I'm talking about, the sanction and women, children's struggle, I'm going to make a huge difference in this country. And I said to Kelly, you know what? Actually, she's my best friend. She managed me for 1 year, and she gets rid of me. She gets rid of me 1 year. She said, "You are unmanageable." So it's true.
I've actually
Anyway,
heard you
so I
play.
started.
I've actually heard you play, and I did some searching, and your Tiny Desk concert for NPR was
Yeah.
absolutely transformative. And you know how good you are, and you know what happens when you let this incredible energy of yours sort of mix with the out, and the results are transformative. It almost transports you around the world to various landscapes and various eras. For instance, for me, it invoked the amazing music of Morocco, the master musicians of Jajuka especially, and obviously Greece and Turkey and the Middle East, all those wonderful exotic places, the cradle of civilization where it actually took root. And you can feel that, man, in your playing. That's all in there. All of that encoded light information is in your playing. And when you share it, it's like you're anchoring the light and the energy wherever you are, and those sound vibrations just reverberate. And man, your magic you bring to this world is profound. So I want to thank you as a human,
Thank
and
you.
as a magician, and as an artist. Just thank you for incarnating and sharing your wonderful gifts and talents.
Thank you very much. I made a difference in this my home at least, and I've been here for 25 years. Literally, next month I will complete 25 years. And
Oh,
my first
wow.
concert was at the Outpost Performance Space, and then Smithsonian, and Stephen Feld. He's the most famous ethnomusicologist in the planet, and he was in the concert, and he sent an email to Smithsonian. He said, "Hey, this guy is genius. You need to take." So anyway, Smithsonian called me, and they said, "We would love to have a record with you,"
Nice.
and I did it. And then I get a Grammy for it. Uh, the traditional Iraqi music. It's called "When the Soul Settled," the music of Iraq. And then, I started composing for orchestras, string quartets, and so forth. I am a solo performer actually. So, but and then I embedded because I'm a violinist too. So I recorded actually first record in the world for oud and string quartet in a style of classical music. And then I started to compose for jazz. Bill Frisell, he heard me actually on NPR.
Mm.
He's a sweetheart, wonderful human being, and a great musician. And he heard me when he was in Seattle and on NPR, and then he heard like Albuquerque, something in Mexico. So he called Tom Gralnick in Outpost. He said, "Yeah, Tom, is there any guy there? I don't catch his name, but he playing oud." I was, "Oh wow, Rahim AlHaj, he's my dear friend." He said, "He lives in Albuquerque." He said, "Yeah, he lives in Albuquerque." So he gave him my phone number, and he flew from Seattle to meet me here actually in Albuquerque, and we became really good friends. And I composed for him and so forth, including REM, Peter Bach and so forth. So I started really composing for different genres, including actually even hip hop with Public Enemy. I have a record with
Mm-hmm.
so so I started, composing and touring that time, and I get another Grammy, and then they give me the National Heritage Award at that time, I think 2015 and so forth. But till this minute, what I'm trying to say is that really, if you believe in yourself as an artist and who you are, that's because I said always, I'm a disabled, really. I have no idea how the world, I mean, if I need to change the pulp, I do not know how, but I know how to play the oud. I'm disabled, really. I always tell my wife, just don't tell me change a bulb or fixing things, because I do not know. I mean, literally, I do not know. All I know, my craft. That's all I know. That's why I've been practicing every single day, 6 to 8 hours a day, 6 to 8 hours a day. No matter
Wow.
what, if I'm touring or not touring, no, I have to compose, and that's what I do. I wake up in the morning, make my coffee, and then I say good morning to my instrument, and yeah, that's it. It's a full-time job.
If
It's
we
like
could,
any yeah.
yeah, if we could back up just a little bit to let the listeners know uh, how you did come to America. I understand that you had some issues with Saddam,
Correct.
and then you left and went. Was it to Jordan first?
Yes, yes. I was politically active against the Saddam regime, so I fled actually Iraq during 1990, and then I went to Jordan, and then from Jordan I went to Syria, which is that time Syria and Iraq, there is no diplomatic relationship between them. So if you are so all the opposition group of Iraq, they live in Syria, and the Syrian opposition, they live in Iraq. So there's no, it's like North Korea and United States. There's no relationship. So I went to Syria, and then I get invitation to do a concert in Damascus, and there's a huge, beautiful, gorgeous journalist came to interview me, and I was like, oh my God, she's gorgeous, beautiful, and I said, would you please marry me? And she's Arabic, like Syrian, shy, and then we fell in love, and I married to her. She's the love of my life till now, and I married to her, and we did the interview, and I stayed in Syria for 8 years until 2000. I came to New Mexico as a political asylum and as a refugee. That's what they call it. Yeah.
And so you left because you were refusing to write pro Saddam music, correct?
Of course, of course. I
They
mean,
wanted you to write stuff
not just this, Justin. I was also protesting the Iraq-Iran war at that time. I was a kid at that time, like I'm a teenager,
Sure.
more than that. So I was opposed the Iran-Iraq war, and that's what put me in trouble. I imprisoned for twice, actually, one time 6 months, and one time 1 year and a half, and under torture, and yeah. So I escaped Iraq basically. My mom sold all her belongings to get me this Iraqi passport and get to Jordan, and that's it. So I was hiding in Jordan for probably 6 months or less or more, and then I went to Syria. Yeah.
And then what was the process like getting to America? Did you have to go to the embassy, or how did that work?
No, no. When I was in Syria, actually, um, I never went to embassy. In fact, this is really incredible story. I remember, oh my God, the director of the United Nations for settlement, they call it refugee settlement or something like that. I was already political asylum in Syria because I'm in Iraq. So the guy, he was from Libya, actually, Libya. His sweetheart. I remember one day he called me and he said, Rahim, can I see you? I said, uh-oh, what's going on? He said, just come over. So I went to him and he said, look, I'm not going to talk a lot. I'm going to ask one question and I needed the answer tomorrow. Okay? And don't ask a lot of questions. And he said, you need to leave. I said, whoa, what's going on? I said, I told you. And by the way, the only country you're going to go to, it's America. I said, what? Because you're like, what do you mean American? You're like, I thought maybe I'll go to Europe, London, Paris, because I speak French and I'm artist, blah, blah, blah. And he said, no, that's it. Tomorrow I need your answer. So I went back and I told Nada, my wife, and I said, well, Muhammad, he was saying this, and what do you think? And she said, well, just go there. If you don't like it, just come back. So what? That's a big deal. So I called him and I said, hey, it's okay. 2 days later, actually, I was in Albuquerque. 2 days.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, wow.
I mean, 2 days I was in Albuquerque. Like, where's America? Where's Chicago and New York? And I came to the Adobe house. And
you actually
went from one desert to another.
You actually won the lottery by coming to the best country on the planet, and look where you are now, man. You're flying, you're blooming. It's amazing.
No, it was amazing, Bearz. It was really incredible choice, and I'm in love. In fact, right now when they tell me what's the best country, even I have been in 87 countries around the world. I've performed in 87 countries. And they said, which one the best? I said, in New Mexico. Because in New Mexico is the best place ever for me. And not just artistically, but I'm talking about environmentally, ideologically, spiritually, beautiful people that I have phenomenal friend that I call them family, family friend. And I made good friends with a lot of musicians here, and they supported me a lot. They loved me a lot, and I never ever did any concert in Albuquerque or Santa Fe. Never ever wasn't sold out. Never. I mean, like since 2000. I mean, like I'm talking about. I remember my concert. First concert was in Outpost. It was $3.
Wow.
I was like, yeah. And then I did just last February, it was like $60, my fee, and like sold out like 2 months, 3 months, 4 months.
Sure.
So I am so lucky being in my beloved home. I always call it my beloved home in New Mexico. So
you won the lottery. You won the lottery, brother. You absolutely won the lottery.
Absolutely. And I feel blessed. I feel I mean, what else do I need more than that? That I could reach the world, and I'm staying in this beautiful. I mean, it's incredible. In fact, I compose a lot. Yeah. So I was going to
ask you what projects you're working on now. What do you have coming up? And are you at the point?
My recent.
It's okay. Go ahead. There's a delay here, folks. It's why we're probably talking over each other.
Yeah.
You asked me about my newest project I'm working on?
Yes.
Well, yeah, not only that, but also, are you feeling like branching out, perhaps getting involved or taking a path into a previously unexplored art form and combining, your music with another type of art form, whether it be dance or film or poetry or a combination of all of them?
Course. Mm-hmm. Of course. In fact, we're talking about film. I came in May last year. I went to Baghdad actually to do this score music for this movie, which is they asked me to act in it, which is weird.
Nice. I think you'd be a great actor.
No, please. It's horrible. In fact, this guy, he's a director. He called me 2 years ago, and he says, Rahim, we need you to do the score for the movie. I said, yeah, sure. I didn't take him seriously, really. But then he said 1 year later, he called me back, and he said, yeah, we have everything now, so be ready. I said, sure. So he sent me the script of the movie, and then a week later, He called me and he said, Rahim, can I do ask you a favor? I said, sure. And he said, can you act in this movie? I said, what the hell is that? Who told you I'm Omar Sharif, for God's sake? Huh? Who told you that? Anyway, so he said, Rahim, don't worry about it. Anyway, so I went back to Baghdad and I agreed to it and I acted in this movie and I doing the score. I always involved with the poetry. Poetry is part of my everyday life. Poetry is I breathe poetry. I mean, like music to me, and I've been doing that for forever since I started music. So, collaboration with other form of art always interesting to me. Yeah, and I would say humbly, in a very humble way, I say I started it with with the string quartet, and then I did with Atmar Liebert, a record, a beautiful record, which is we sold 1.10 million records in it, a lot. And I collaborate with like jazz and orchestras and so forth. So always, in fact, the recent one, which is right now, we're talking about next week. There's a beautiful guitarist from South Africa. His name Derek Gruber. He's a beautiful, beautiful musician. So we already played, sold out 2 shows in DC and New York, and he's coming on the 3rd. So that's my new project that we're working on, just oud and guitar from South Africa, and we'll be record. In fact, March I have a record. Yeah, March 11, we have a meeting in DC. I have a concert there to sign the contract between me and the Smithsonian Folkways, because most of my records with the Smithsonian.
Yeah, Smithsonian's an interesting label. Yeah, Smithsonian's an interesting label, actually.
Oh God, they are so respectful. Actually, they're one of the most respectable record label, because your work will be there forever. Really, it will never be out of print. Will never be out of download. No, it's a phenomenal record label. So I'm grateful to them. I started with them in 2003, and which I get the Grammy for best world music album that time. And then I collaborate with Amjad Ali Khan, the Surod player. And we get this beautiful record, and I get the other Grammy for it. And then we tour India like extensively, and we played all over. So anyway, so the answer to your question is that, of course, I always open my mind to explore any ideas that it makes sense to my artistic vision of art. In fact, with the dancer, for example, I cooperate with this. We have a beautiful organization here. It's called Kashet. I don't know if you are familiar with it. It's a big company, non-profit company, dancing company. I did choreography music for them last year, and then so anyway. So the answer to your question, yes, always I'm busy. Always.
And you're playing shows too. You have coming up in February. I know you're doing 3 shows here in New Mexico, Taos, Santa Fe, and Albuquerque, right?
Also, what do they call it? Silver City too.
Oh, Silver City, sure.
Correct. Yeah, and that's the New Mexico, and then we go after that to the East Coast again, and then going all over from June to July to the West Coast between Vancouver, Seattle, Portland. I mean the same thing over and over again, basically.
How can you describe the feeling that you get when you're on stage? I know, just playing at home or, practicing is one thing, but that energy you get when you're on stage, how does that kind of help you in playing the show in front of so many people?
Actually, I get a lot of energy stimulated from the audience. I mean, because I've taken my art very seriously anyway. And I love people, and like I know how to communicate with them, and I love to have conversation with them, and my art or my music, it's always related to people anyway. It's not just like abstract music. I'm just like, no, I have a stories and to tell, and that so it's communicated with them. Now actually it's very hard because I have a sciatica, and
Mm.
it's just killing me really. I have a herniated disc from
Yeah.
always, playing hours and hours on sitting. And so last week when I was in New York and DC, when I went, it was really hard and difficult, very, very difficult because, sciatica is a very vicious kind, really a vicious pain. Very, but I always, soon I was on the stage, I forget the pain. I have to concentrate on my art and do my best always, because there's no excuse. If you have excuse, you know what, Justin, just do something else. Just do something else. That's what required for artists. It requires artists mean you have no choice except to be an artist. That's it.
Well, it's
Just like,
part of one's life
it's so
purpose, really.
simple.
It's difficult always for people to discern their life's purpose, especially in Western culture here, where we're so bombarded by electromagnetic fields and advertising and ideas of family ideas of who and what we should be and relationship ideas. So, the our original voice from when we were a child can sometimes become buried under just so much weight and gravity of others' expectations that to remain an individual and to remain and fight to be yourself is oftentimes a very
Right.
challenging, you know. But you're absolutely right.
Absolutely.
If you're called to express your spirit, which is a direct connection with Source or God or whoever you like to call it or know it as, that's going to shine through no matter what. You can't dim your light for anyone, man. The key, I think, Rahim, is finding a balance, don't you?
Absolutely. I mean, balance with in terms of, when we get older, I always say I fight with my manager, like, they put me in the road all the time. And I said, no, when I get older, I'm 56 now, So I'm privileged, and I am, um, yeah, I'm privileged to play music and make living out of my art. That's really incredible. Um, but I would love to create project, and the project, it requires a lot of time. Really, when you are on the road, you have to keep your practice at the same time. You have to be performer, right? I mean, like from, city to city, city to city, state to state, country to country. I remember, like, I used to go for like 40 to 50 to 60 concerts a year, which is that's a
Mm.
lot, really a lot. And I'm like, I'm in Japan. I will be coming back to London, from London to. I'm like, it was insane. It was insane. I'm not doing that way, but I do a good concert. Like, for example, last year I did really good one, like tour to New Zealand and Australia, and I premiered my concerto at the Sydney Opera House, which is, a big deal for an artist
Yeah.
to premiere such a work with the incredible musician at the Sydney Opera House. And so these kind of stuff, it keep me coming and keep me focus more, and forget the dilemma. And the only things right now, to be honest, my focus is like, because our country right now, it's in the middle, started a new era to the United States. It's really in the new era, and that's scary. and predictable, and a lot of degree is dangerous.
Well, it's
So we
also an
need to be
opportunity
diligent.
for it's also an opportunity, Rahim, for the citizens to somehow reconcile duality and overcome fear. Because if we can overcome fear within ourselves, just like your beautiful, incredible music, you know, those vibrations of peace and harmony and tranquility are going to reverberate throughout the whole fabric of culture and society, and that's going to create a stabilization sort of net and energy and ground us to a certain degree, you know. And just because we're at the precipice of the
Absolutely.
unknown doesn't mean that we don't have a say in the co-creation, or that we
Yes.
absolutely can affect the direction. And especially if we do that with an open heart and one that's not clenched in fear, because you know, fear is just false evidence appearing real. And we don't want to feed the anxieties, man. We just want to proceed forward with everyone with an open heart, and
Absolutely.
make sure life is good for everyone, man. But we absolutely have to
Absolutely.
overcome this curtain of fear that seems to be fogging the nation, much like the fog from these drones that we keep hearing about, you know? So if we can just
Absolutely.
proceed with an
Absolutely.
open
No,
heart,
I mean,
our mind.
you are absolutely right, Pierce. You are absolutely right, because I came from dictatorship environment, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, for me, to be alive is to not just to deliver your art, no, no, to fight injustice, and that's what my life is.
Absolutely.
It's all about justice, and all my life until I expired, I will do it. I will never back up just because fear or change in regime or whatever.
Good.
No, I don't care. This is my role in life, to make difference. Small, big, I don't care really, but I have to make difference. And I will never stop talking out loud uh, for injustice, whatever shape, whether injustice to a woman on the street or government that we have right now. We will speak up to, and we stand up to our standards, to our belief, and uh, to our you are source of I mean, basic, I call it the humanity, to have love, peace, and compassion to anyone. And peace is a
Yeah.
beautiful thing
Yes.
to bring to this
Yes.
world.
And we must
And
not
then,
live a
like,
life we must not live a life of indifference, especially as artists. It's our calling not to live a life of indifference, because we see things sometimes more clearly and differently, and we can somehow
Absolutely.
translate that back to the masses and say, look, this is what's really going on. Well, you're distracted over here by wildfires, alleged wildfires, but this is what's really
Right.
going on.
Right.
There's a land grab going on right now. Was it by accident? I don't know, you tell me. Yes, always
Well,
fight for.
it's,
yeah.
what I mean is like being a human being actually is responsibility. I always say that. To be a
That's a
good
good.
human being, you have to be responsible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Gandhi said, "Be the change you want to see in the world," and
That's
that has
right.
Exactly.
always resonated with me.
Absolutely. Because being a human being means to stand up for injustice. That's basic. When you walk on the street and you see somebody beating a woman, for example, you stand up. It's simple. When you see something wrong, you just stand up, no matter what the injustice it is. Uh, and that's basically it's basically it's translate why we are a human being. I'm not gonna explain to somebody who is an animal, for example, source of it, and make a difference in this world. No, because we have intellect, right? And we are responsible. We are responsible to make difference.
Well, especially since we all come from the same source, whether you call that God or whatever version you want to call that, we all come from the same source. I mean, even quantum physics has proof that we're all connected on the quantum level. So if we don't fight for injustice and for what is right, then we're kind of letting down other members of the human race. And when we do that, we're letting ourselves down too. I was in a thrift store in the South once, and I asked to use the bathroom, and the counter attendant gave me the key. I went in, did my business, came back out. An African-American lady asked for the key, and they said, "Ma'am, our bathroom's out of order." I said, "No, it isn't. I just used that bathroom." I said, "I'm from New
Oh
York.
God.
I don't play this fucking game, you know. I don't play the fucking game of
Right, right.
racism." And you know, injustice has to end with each and every one of us by what we choose to do. Do we choose to act for everyone's highest good? And when we do that, that's when we increase the good and the light on the planet. Don't you think, Rahim?
Absolutely. That's our responsibility. I always do not giving up on our responsibility. Our responsibility to act as a good human being first. Good human being, whatever in that regard, right? And in everyone, whether you are an artist or you are working in McDonald's or you are working in the construction, it doesn't matter who you are, but you doing your part as a good human, decent human being. And it has to be that way. Otherwise, nobody will give you right to your freedom. No.
And we thank
Nobody.
Rahim, we thank you for always acting for the good of everyone, because if you didn't, you wouldn't be here sharing your gifts today. And thank you for the journey you went on and having the
Absolutely.
courage to do so.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me. It was really great. I hope will this podcast can reach somebody and change something, something small, big
That's
in
right.
their life. That will be
Yeah.
wonderful.
Even
You,
just, sharing your gift with the world, and this is another platform to do that. And so
that's right.
we're gonna hopefully get you a couple new fans, and
Thank you.
I've been listening
Yeah.
to your music for about 15 years or so, and
Oh.
I
Hey, Bearz.
love it.
Yeah, man.
Thank you very much, Bearz. So I will be in New York. I'm playing. I mean, they have a lot of concerts, but one is the New York Guitar Festival.
Oh,
I don't know
wow.
if you are familiar with it. So we are going, me and Derek, we're going to be there in June, I think, June something, 11 or
Oh,
something like
that's a
that.
good time to
So if
be
you
in New
are, and I
York.
always, how far Philly to your home?
About 2 hours.
Oh, nothing, man.
That's
You
Yeah,
nothing,
can
man.
drive.
2 hours, man.
Take the
I
RV.
don't know
Yes.
if Justin told you, but I grew up on Allen Ginsberg's farm. You know, the great American poet Allen Ginsberg, and we had all kinds of
Of course.
artists and musicians coming through. One of the most memorable ones was the jazz musician Paul Bley from Canada.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I asked him, Paul, I said, Paul, what inspires you? And he said, I inspire myself. And at the time, I thought that was a bit arrogant. But, you know, at this age, I understand it. And
Right.
I'd like to ask
Right.
you, what inspires you, man?
Actually, pain, the injustice.
Mm.
It's
I was going to
always,
ask
yes.
Rahim, one last question from me is how do you take a theme like injustice and pain, and and you look at the world, and how do you take a theme and sit down and write a song about that?
Yeah.
Most, your music is, there's no lyrics to it. And so
Hmm.
how do you kind of transform your feeling or your thought process into composing on the oud?
Actually, that's a great question. Actually, I call myself a translator. Like, for
Hmm.
example, the latest project I done, it's called Letters from Iraq. Paris, check this record. It's called Letters from Iraq, which is actual letters written by Iraqi women and children to United States during the invasion. It's incredible.
Mm.
So
Wow.
I got them and I translate them musically for oud and string quintet. It's a so I translated these letters written by kids and
Hmm.
women.
That's
I mean,
beautiful.
literally word by word. I become them, and I explain that musically. It's hard, it's difficult, but it comes across. And now, this record all over the world. I mean, like literally, yeah, I'm from Japan to Kazakhstan to Sydney Opera to. So, what the answer to your question is, like, I obsessed about justice. I am obsessed, really. And
words carry a vibration, right? Words carry vibration,
absolutely.
much like an instrument.
Yes, I took these words and I translate them musically.
That's
I put
right.
my ego aside, not as a virtuosic Rahim AlHaj. No, I don't care. I wanted to deliver the message of these children and women in Iraq who went through inhumane circumstances.
I think your heart, my
amazing.
friend, is definitely there in everything you do. So thank you.
Bearz,
Bearz,
thank you very much. Wonderful.
Bearz,
We'll see you very soon.
we should introduce Rahim to my nephew, Joshua Brown. He is he plays the violin, and he travels the world also playing concerts, and he's winning all kinds of awards and fellowships.
Wow,
and
where
all
he
that.
based?
He's in Boston right now.
Oh, really?
He's
No, but
originally
he lives in Boston?
He lives in Boston right now. He's originally from Sterling, Virginia. It's my sister's son, and he spent some time just outside of Chicago, and that's where I'm from, Northern Illinois.
Right.
And
Please
he
do so.
amazing.
Please do so,
I will put you guys in touch, because I think you guys might have a CD in there. He just recorded a CD.
With a new pianist.
Yeah, with the new pianist. Was that in Amsterdam or somewhere?
Yeah.
So he just did that. It might be Brussels, yeah. So he just did that, but I think you guys would hit it off.
Please, let's
and
give
be
him
able
my
to
contact, and we will do it just like that.
I'll give him your email for sure.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, thank you again.
Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Brother.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
And keep the good work.
And and you and I should get together for some coffee sometime here in Albuquerque.
I am here.
So
absolutely, man.
I will definitely be in touch, and I'm going to try and make your concert next month as well.
Yes.
Next month.
Thank you very much. So now you need me to turn it off, or you have to wait?
You just wait. Hang on just a second. Okay. Thanks again, Rahim. You've been listening to the Barely Audible Podcast. Join us next week.
Thank you, everyone.